Twabble, beautiful ladies. Tiffany, Trina. Hey, girls. Hey. This hair already today is funny, I know, right? I was like, should I soften it a little bit? No, let's just go ahead and put it out there just like that. You know, it's called, what you call it? You got a break state. Get that attention. Okay, y'all. Let's see. I like to break the state of people when they're off into la la land. Not saying that y'all off into la la land, but sometimes people don't pay attention to stuff. So sometimes you have to do something to break their state, break their sleep, break their la la land happiness. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Let's go ahead and get started. Well, happy Monday. Let me move this out. That's going to bug me. Happy Monday. I hope you all enjoyed your rest day yesterday, all weekend. It was a 4-day weekend for most people, so I hope you enjoyed all 4 days if you had all 4 days. If not, I hope you enjoyed the days you had off. And if you ain't had no days off, well, may y'all give rest to your body. All right, y'all. Today, it is Monday. It is the last day of the month, y'all. We already at the end of 2020. Can y'all believe that? We already at the end of 2020. Ain't no telling what 2021 gonna look like, you know. But blessed for those of us who follow y'all, right, and trust in Him. So today it is November the 30th, 2020, day 11 of year 3. We're reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 681. Yes, 681. Pretty soon we're gonna be in the 700 count, y'all. Well, technically, we are in the 700 count if we would count the Sabbaths and the Sabbath feast days. But since we're not counting those, we're keeping the the consecutive day count of the days that we actually read and we rest on the Sabbath. All right, y'all. So today we are reading Genesis 31, 32, and 33, and the corresponding chapter in Jasher is chapter 32, and that's what we're gonna see. What my title is talking about today, because I don't think Genesis for these 3 chapters give it definitely doesn't give the complete story of what happened here. But we're going to see the full story in Jasher, and I definitely think that all of this should have been canonized. But it wasn't. But now we got Jasher. We got it anyway. All right. Better late than never. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and start with our reading. Let me do this right here. Okay. Check my volume. Okay. I'm all the way up. All right, y'all. Genesis chapter 31. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Remember, Jacob had no, he didn't. He's about to flee, right? Rachel, no, he did. Hold on. Yeah, he fled already. He fled. I'm thinking about Jasher, because in Jasher he had already fled. Okay, all right. Anyway, y'all get where we at. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they said. He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense. And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude towards him. Then Yahuwah said to Jacob, return to the land of your father and grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you. So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out of the field where he was watching his flock. So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, I have noticed your father's attitude towards me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I've worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times. But Yahuwah has not allowed him to do me any harm. For if he said the speckled animals will be your wages, the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said the striped animals will be your wages, then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way, Yahuwah has taken your father's animals and given them to me. One time during mating season, I had a dream, and I saw that the male goats mating with the females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of Yahuwah said to me, Jacob, and I replied, yes, here I am. The angel said, look up, and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth." Rachel and Leah responded, "That's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women." Remember, when Laban comes, he said, "You pretty much ran off and taken my daughters and my grandchildren as captives." But Rachel and Leah was ready to go. Listen what they say about their father. Rachel and Leah responded, "That's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women. And after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth Yahuwah has given you from our father legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever Yahuwah has told you to do." So Jacob put his wives and children on camels, and he drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he acquired and paid in Aram and set out for the land of Canaan where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Remember, Saturday when we were here, we talked about these idols and what they actually consisted of and how they were actually talking. That's what we read about in Jasher 31, right? These idols that Rachel had stolen were actually talking. So if you missed it, remember, she didn't steal the animals like according to how I originally thought about this until I got the missing pieces of this story. I thought Rachel had stole her father's idols so she could take them with them so she can worship them. So I thought she was still actually worshiping her father's idols, but she wasn't. But now that we know what type of idols these were and they were talking, they were actually giving information, audible information to Laban, her father. She took them so the idols would not be able to tell her father where they had went. But she didn't get all of them because Laban went to another set of idols and they told him where they went, and that's how Laban caught up with them. So Rachel thought she was doing a good thing by stealing her father's idols because, like I said, she didn't want her father to catch up with them. That was her whole point, her whole mindset in taking them in the first place. She wasn't going to worship them. She was hiding them from her father, so pretty much they wouldn't tell on them so they could get away. All right. At that time they left, Laban was some distance away shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Jacob outwitted Laban, the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled, so he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night, Yahuwah appeared to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream and told him, "I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone." Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead, and he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. "What do you mean by deceiving me like this?" Laban demanded. "How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing, music, accompanied by tambourines and harps. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You have acted very foolishly. I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. I can understand your feeling that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home, but why have you stolen my gods?" "I rushed away because I was afraid," Jacob answered. "I thought you would take your daughters from me by force, but as for your gods, see if you can find them and let the person who has taken them die." And remember, we talked about this. Jacob spoke too soon, not realizing Rachel, the wife he loved, had stolen them. "And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours, and I will give it back." But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, and then into Leah's, and then to the tents of the 2 servant wives, but he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent, but Rachel had taken the household idols and hidden them in her camel's saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent Without finding them, she said to her father, "Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period." So Laban continued his search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry, and he challenged Laban. "What is my crime?" he demanded. "What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you have found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us before our relatives for all to see. Let them judge between us. For 20 years I have been with you." Remember, the first 7 years he served for Rachel, but Laban gave him Leah instead. Then he served him another 7 years for Rachel, and he really gave him Rachel. And then after that, when he was trying to leave the first time to go back home, he said, "Look, I'll serve you another 6 years." So 7 plus 7 plus 6 is 20. That's the 20 years, y'all. "For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. In all that time, your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those days, I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through the cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked 14 years earning your 2 daughters and then 6 more years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But Yahuwah has seen your abuse and my hard work. This is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you." Then Laban replied to Jacob, "These women are my daughters, these children are my grandchildren, and these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and it will be a witness to our commitment." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, "Gather some stones." So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal. To commemorate the event, Laban called the place Jegar Sahadutha, which means witness pile in Aramaic, and Jacob called it Galid, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, "This pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we made today." This explains why it was called Galid, witness pile. But it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, "May Yahuwah keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant, and may Yahuwah keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you marry other wives, Yahuwah will see, even if no one else does. He is a witness to this covenant between us." "See this pile of stones," Laban continued, "and this monument I have set between us. They stand between us as a witness of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass these stones or this monument to harm me. I call on the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of my grandfather Nahor to serve as a judge between us." So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to Yahuwah there on the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning, and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters, and he blessed them. Then he left and returned home. Genesis chapter 32. As Jacob started on his way again, the angels of Yahuwah came to meet him. When Jacob saw them, he exclaimed, "This is Yahuwah's camp." So he named the place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers ahead of his brother Esau, who was living in the region of Seir and the mountain of Edom. He told them, "Give this message to my master Esau. Humble greetings from your servant Jacob. Until now I have been living with Uncle Laban, and now I own cattle, donkeys, flocks of sheep and goats, and many servants, both men and women." Now mind you, before this message even got to Esau, there's a whole scene that was not included. Now we're going to get to that. "Until now I have been living with Uncle Laban, and now I own cattle, donkeys, flocks of sheep and goats, and many servants, both men and women. I have sent these messengers to inform my lord of my coming, hoping that you will be friendly to me. After delivering the message, the messengers returned to Jacob and reported, we meet your brother Esau, and he is already on his way to meet you with an army of 400 men. Jacob was terrified at the news. He divided his household along with the flocks and herds and camels into two groups. He thought if Esau meets in one group and attacks it, perhaps the other group will escape. Remember, the last day we were reading, Laban had sent people to go tell Esau what had happened. He was pissed with Jacob, so he added a couple lies in there in the story that he was telling Esau to make it think that Jacob also came and stole everything from Laban too, which was not the truth. So that's why Esau is pissed, and he head in his brother's direction with 400 men, like they ready to war. They going to take Jacob's life. Then Jacob prayed, O God of my grandfather Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Yahuwah, you told me, return to your own land and to your relatives, and you promised me I will treat you kindly. I am not worthy of all the unfailing love and faithfulness you have shown to me, your servant. When I left home and crossed the Jordan River, I owned nothing except a walking stick. And now my household fills 2 large camps. O Yahuwah, please rescue me from the hand of my brother Esau. I am afraid that he is coming to attack me along with my wives and children. But you promised me I will surely treat you kindly, and I will multiply your descendants until they become as numerous as the sands along the seashore, too many to count. Jacob stayed where he was for the night. Then he selected these gifts from his possessions to present to his brother Esau: 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He divided these animals into herds and assigned each to different servants. Then he told his servants, go ahead of me with the animals, but keep some distance between the herds. And Jacob gave the same instructions to the second and third herdsmen and to all who followed behind the herds. You must say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, look, your servant Jacob is right behind us. Jacob thought, I will try to appease him by sending gifts ahead of me. When I see him in person, perhaps he will be friendly to me. So the gifts were sent on ahead, while Jacob himself spent the night in the camp. During the night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 servant wives, and his 11 sons, and crossed the Jabbok River with them. After taking them to the other side, he sent over all his possessions. This left Jacob all alone in the camp, and the man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of his socket. Then the man said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go until you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. He replied, Jacob. Your name will no longer be Jacob, the man told him. From now on you will be called Israel, because you have fought with Yahuwah and with men and have won. Please tell me your name, Jacob said. Why do you want to know my name? The man replied. Then he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of Yahuwah. For he said, I have seen Yahuwah face to face, yet my life has been spared. The sun was rising as Jacob left Peniel, and he was limping because of the injury to his hip. Even today, the people of Israel don't eat the tendon near the hip socket because of what happened that night when the man strained the tendon of Jacob's hip. All right, y'all, last chapter for today before we go to Jasher 32 to fill in the missing pieces. Genesis 33. Then Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with his 400 men, so he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and his 2 servant wives. But he put his servant wives and their children at the front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. Then Jacob went on ahead. As he approached his brother, he bowed down to the ground 7 times before him. Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they both wept. Then Esau looked at the women and children and asked, who are these people with you? These are the children Yahuwah has graciously given to me, your servant, Jacob replied. Then the servant wives came forward with their children and bowed before him. Next came Leah with her children, and they bowed before him. Finally, Joseph and Rachel came forward and bowed before him. And what are all these flocks and herds I met as I came? Esau asked. Jacob replied, They are my gift, my lord, to ensure your friendship. My brother, I have plenty, Esau answered. Keep what you have for yourself. But Jacob insisted, No, if I have found favor with you, please accept this gift from me. And what a relief to see your friendly smile. It is like seeing the face of Yahuwah. Please take this gift. Please take these gifts I have brought to you, for Yahuwah has been very gracious to me. I have more than enough. And because Jacob insisted, Esau finally accepted the gift. Well, Esau said, Let's be going. I will lead the way. But Jacob replied, You can see, my lord, that some of the children are very young, and the flocks and herds have their young too. If they are driven too hard for even one day, all the animals could die. Please, my lord, go ahead of your servant. We will follow slowly, at a pace that is comfortable for the livestock and the children. I will meet you at Seir. All right, Esau said, but at least let me assign some of my men to guide and protect you. Jacob responded, That's not necessary. It's enough that you've received me warmly, my lord. Good morning, Auntie. So Esau turned around and started back to Seir that same day. Jacob, on the other hand, traveled to Succoth. There he built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth, which means shelters. Remember, every year, one of the fall annual feasts is Sukkot, or booths, or tabernacles, or tents. Same thing. Later, after having traveled all the way from Padan Aram, Jacob arrived safely at the town of Shechem in the land of Canaan. There he set up the camp outside the town. Jacob bought the plot of land where he came from the family of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver, and there he built an altar and named it El Elohi Israel. All right, y'all, so that's our reading for today. Right here, we're going to go ahead and go over to Jasher chapter 32 and fill in these missing pieces and see what happened to Esau and why he changed why his anger had subsided by the time he actually got to Jacob. I keep y'all, every time I forget, my pens are in here, and every time I open it, they all fall on the floor. Okay, y'all. Okay, here we go. Jasher chapter 31. Okay. All right, y'all. Jasher chapter 32. I'm sorry. Okay. At that time, Jacob sent messengers to his brother Esau toward the land of Seir, and he spoke to him words of supplication. Remember, Jacob just divided up some of the gift that he had given. He said, make sure you keep distance between each section of herd and cattle, and each servant, when you get to my brother, tell him this, and everybody tell him the same thing, but let it be the first set that he meet, and let him travel the road a little bit more before he run into the second group of gift. Tell him the same thing. So he said, perhaps this may appease him, but we're going to see what happened that actually appeased his anger towards Jacob, his brother. And at that time, Jacob sent messengers to his brother Esau toward the land of Seir, and he spoke to him words of supplication. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye say to my lord, to Esau, Thus says your servant Jacob, Let not my lord imagine that my father's blessing with me, which he did bless me, has proved beneficial to me. So he reminded him of the blessing, knowing that Esau was pissed with him because he said he stole his blessing and his birthright. But we know that's not the truth. He handed it over because, remember, Esau was in distress and he thought he was about to die. He thought Nimrod's men was about to kill him. They were going to catch up to him because he had just killed Nimrod and two of his mightiest men and had stolen the garments off of his body that had been passed down since Adam. But even Nimrod having them on, they were stolen. His father, his grandfather had stolen them, but he put them on when he was 20, which was the cause of him being the mightiest man upon the earth, and he ruled the whole earth at that time. Nimrod did. So Esau freely gave over his birthright. Therefore, the blessing went to Jacob. Right? Okay. Thus says your servant Jacob, Let not my Lord imagine that my father's blessing, which with he did bless me, has proved beneficial to me. For I have been these 20 years with Laban, and he deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, as it has already been told unto my Lord. And I served him in his house very laboriously. And Yahuwah afterward saw my affliction, my labor, and the work of my hands, and he caused me to find favor and grace in his sight. And afterwards, through Yahuwah's great mercy and kindness, I acquire oxen and asses and cattle and men servant and maid servant. And now I am coming to my land and my home, to my father and mother, who are in the land of Canaan. And I have sent to let my Lord know all this in order to find favor in the sight of my Lord, so that he may not imagine that I have of myself obtained wealth, or that the blessing with which my father blessed me has benefited me. He lying. He's saying the blessing that Dad gave me is not. It wasn't beneficial to me. But Yahuwah still blessed him anyway. And those messengers went to Esau and found him on the borders of the land of Edom, going toward Jacob. 400 men of the children of Seir, the quarry, were standing with drawn swords. And the messengers of Jacob told Esau all the words that Jacob had spoken to them concerning Esau. And Esau answered them with pride and contempt, and said unto them, Surely I have heard, and truly it has been told unto me what Jacob has done to Laban, who exalted him in his house, and gave him his daughters for women, and he begat sons and daughters, and abundantly increased in wealth and riches in Laban's house through his means. And when he saw that his wealth was abundant and his riches great, he fled with all belonging to him from Laban's house, and he led Laban's daughters away from the face of their father as captives, taken by the sword without telling him of it. And not only to Laban has Jacob done thus, but also unto me he has done so, and has twice supplanted me. And shall I be silent? Now therefore I have this day come with my camps to meet him, and I will do unto him according to the desire of my heart. He was ready to kill his brother. And the messengers returned and came to Jacob and said unto him, We came to your brother, to Esau. We told him all your words, and thus has he answered us. And behold, he comes to meet you with 400 men. Now then know and see what you shall do, and pray before Yahuwah to deliver you from him. And when he heard these words of his brother, which he had spoken to the messengers of Jacob, Jacob was greatly afraid, and he was distressed. And Jacob prayed to Yahuwah. Listen, and think about what happens every time somebody prays to Yahuwah, and how Yahuwah answers a prayer. Don't do that again. Go on back upstairs, little boy. And Jacob prayed unto Yahuwah, and he said, O Yahuwah of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and you did, O Yahuwah, the God of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, you did say unto me when I went away from my father's house, saying, I am Yahuwah, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Jacob. Unto you do I give this land, and your seed after you, and I will make your seed as the stars of heaven, and you shall spread forth to the four sides of heaven, and in you and in your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And you did establish your words, and you did give unto me riches and children and cattle, as the utmost wishes of my heart did you give unto your servant. And you did give unto me all that I asked from you, so that I lacked nothing. And you did afterwards say unto me, Return to your parents and to your birthplace, and I will still do well with you. And now that I have come, and you did deliver me from Laban, I shall fall into the hands of Esau, who will slay me, yea, together with the mothers of my children. Now therefore, O Yahuwah, deliver me, I pray you, also from the hands of my brother Esau, for I am greatly afraid of him. And if there is no righteousness in me, then do it for the sake of Abraham and my father Jacob. For I know that through kindness and mercy I have acquired this wealth. Now therefore I beseech you to deliver me this day with your kindness, and to answer me. And Jacob ceased praying to Yahuwah, and he divided the people that were with him with the flocks and cattle into 2 camps, and he gave half of the care to Damascus, the son of Eleazar, Abraham's servant, for a camp with his children, and the other half he gave to the care of his brother Eliyanuk, the son of Eleazar, to be for a camp with his children. And he commanded them, saying, Keep yourselves at a distance with your camps, and do not come too near each other. And if Esau come to one camp and slay it, The other camp at a distance from it will escape him. And Jacob tarried there that night. During the whole night he gave his servants instructions concerning the forces and his children. And Yahuwah heard the prayer of Jacob on that day. And Yahuwah then delivered Jacob from the hands of his brother Esau. And listen, here's where it gets really exciting. Listen to what Yahuwah did to Esau. Listen. And Yahuwah sent 3 angels of the angels of heaven, and they went before Esau and came to him. And these angels appeared unto Esau and his people as 2,000 men. Imagine, Yahuwah sent 3 angels, but they appeared unto Esau as 2,000 men, riding upon horses, furnished with all sorts of war instruments. And they appeared in the sight of Esau and all his men to be divided into 4 camps, with 4 chiefs to them. And one camp went on, and they found Esau coming with 400 men toward his brother Jacob. And this camp ran toward Esau and his people and terrified them. And Esau fell off the horse in alarm, and all his men separated from him in that place, for they were greatly afraid. And the whole of the camp shouted after them, and when they fled from Esau. And all the warlike men answered, saying, We are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of Yahuwah. Who then can stand against us? And Esau said unto them, O then, my lord and brother Jacob is your lord, whom I have not seen. I'm sorry, let me read that again. Surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of Yahuwah, and who then can stand against us? And Esau said unto them, O then, my lord and brother Jacob is your lord, whom I have not seen for these 20 years. And now that I have this day come to see him, do you treat me in this manner? And the angels answered him, saying, As Yahuwah lives, were not Jacob, of whom you speak, your brother, we had not let one remaining from you or your people, but only on account of Jacob will we do nothing to them. So what they said, if Jacob hadn't been your brother, we was going to kill all your men. It's only for that reason we let them live. And that's the first camp. And this camp passed from Esau and his men, and it went away. So not only was Esau seeing these angels who made themselves look like 2,000 men, but all Esau's men were seeing them too, and they were greatly terrified, and they fled away. And this camp passed from Esau and his men, and it went away. And Esau and his men had gone from them about a league, when the second camp came toward him with all sorts of weapons. And they also did unto Esau and his men as the first camp had done to them. And when they had left to go on, behold, the third camp came toward him, and they were all terrified. And Esau fell off his horse, and the whole camp cried out and said, Surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of Yahuwah. Who can stand against us? And Esau again answered them, saying, O then, Jacob my lord, and your lord is my brother. And for 20 years I have not seen his countenance. And hearing this day that he was coming, I went this day to meet him. And do you treat me in this manner? And they answered him and said unto him, As Yahuwah lives, were not Jacob your brother, as you did say, we had not left a remnant from you and your men. But on account of Jacob, whom you speak, being your brother, we will not meddle with you or your men. And the third camp also passed from them, and he still continued his road with his men toward Jacob. Then the fourth camp came toward him, and they also did unto him and his men as the others had done. And when Esau beheld the evil which the 4 angels had done to him and to his men, he became greatly afraid of his brother Jacob, and he went to meet him in peace. Bruh, mind you, Esau only had 400 men. Now Yahuwah had sent Jacob help and caused the angels of heaven to appear unto him. You know what this reminds me of? Remember how, and I know I don't talk about it a lot, but remember how, and I'm saying this because everybody knows about this. Remember how they was about to take JC, they was about to take Jesus and crucify him, and he said, no, stop. He said, because I can call my Father and ask him, and he'll send a legion of angels to come to my rescue. But that wasn't the only time we've seen it. Even in the Old Testament, remember when Elijah, was it Elijah? Well, yeah, even with Elijah, when Elijah was being taken up, Elisha was able to see it. but also Elisha, his protege. I think I said it right. The prophet Elisha was training when the armies were coming up against them. They said, "Oh my Lord, I fear." Then Elisha told him, he said, "Calm down." He said, "Father, open his eyes that he may see that there are more that are with us than they that be with them." If all of us would see and understand that there are unseen forces ready to show themselves to back us up, we would walk with such confidence knowing that Yahuwah has our back all the time in all things. And so this happens again, but this happens a lot. But they didn't canonize these parts of the Bible, all these letters and scrolls and stuff from history. So when we don't read it, we don't have anything to attach our faith to, anything of substance really, because we don't really see in the New Testament, we don't really see a lot of this. We hear people talking and they're giving instruction, but we don't really hear history except for a couple little places that they put in there, but most of the New Testament is just them writing to the churches and giving instruction, and there's not really anything to attach your faith to, if that makes sense to y'all. Don't take my words out of context, but there's not really anything of substance for real where you can be like, "Oh, remember when y'all did this for such and such, and remember they cried out and she cried out and Yahuwah came to her rescue." All of that stuff where you build your faith is back here. And this is another reason why we're reading, so we can see what Yahuwah himself has said out of his mouth and what he has promised unto us. And we can see all those who have taken him at his word and cried out to him, and how he showed himself mighty on their behalf. Yah is our mighty one. That's why I love reading these. That's why I love reading these, and I chose this time not to just give you the references to go read them, because most of you may have not had the time to actually go read it. So that's why we're taking a little bit extra time this third year going through. I know the videos are a little bit longer, but if you have time to listen to it, or let it play while you're getting ready for work, or while you're working, or while you're laying upon your bed, or whatever. That way you can help yourself and help your faith to build, and you have something to look back on, like, wait a minute, y'all, I remember when you did this for Abraham, when you did this for Jacob, and when you did this for Leah and Rachel and Esther, and you know what I'm saying. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna go back up here to 37. No, I'll do 38. "And the third camp also passed from them, and he still continued his road with his men toward Jacob, when the fourth camp came toward him. And they also did unto him and his men as the others had done. And when Esau beheld the evil which the four angels had done to him and his men, he became greatly afraid of his brother Jacob, and he went to meet him in peace." So by the time he got to Jacob, all that anger and rage that he had was squelched, because he understood that he was outnumbered with his little puny 400 men to Jacob's 2,000 men. What are we going to do? I better get myself together. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and put it all behind me. I'm going to hug and kiss my brother and just go on about my life so I can keep it, And Esau concealed his hatred against Jacob because he was afraid of his life on the account of his brother Jacob, and because he imagined that the four camps that he had lighted upon were Jacob's servants. And remember, they weren't just showing up on horses. It said they had all manner of war instruments. So you can imagine what type of stuff they was flashing in front of Esau and his men's face. They probably like, "Oh, what's that? Oh no, master, I'm going back home. I got a wife, I got kids. What is that? What are they going to do with that?" Clearly, their faces are not toward us. Like, "And Jacob tarried that night with his servants in their camps, and he resolved with his servants to give unto Esau a present from all that he had with him, and from all his property. Jacob rose up in the morning, he and his men, and they chose from amongst the cattle a present for Esau. And this is the amount of the present which Jacob chose from his flock to give unto his brother Esau. He selected 240 head from the flocks, and he selected from the camels and asses 30 each, and of the herds he chose 50 kine, and he put them all in 10 droves, and he placed each sort by itself, and he delivered them into the hands of 10 of his servants, each drove by itself. And he commanded them and said unto them, keep yourselves at a distance from each other, and put a space between the droves. And when Esau and those who are with him shall meet with you, and ask you, saying, whose are you, and whither do you go, and to whom belongs all this before you? And you shall say unto them, we are the servants of Jacob, and we come to meet Esau in peace. And behold, Jacob comes behind us, and that which is before us is a present sent from Jacob to his brother Esau. And if they shall say unto you, why does he delay behind you from coming to meet his brother and see his face? Then you shall say unto him, surely he comes joyfully behind us to meet his brother. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before him, and after this I will see his face. Perchance he will accept me. So the whole present passed on in the hands of his servants, and went before him on that day. And he lodged that night with his camps by the border of the brook of Jabbok. And he rose up in the midst of the night, and he took his women and the maid servants and all belonging to him, and he that night passed them over the ford Jabbok. And when he passed all belonging to him over the brook, Jacob was left by himself, and a man met him, and he wrestled with him that night until the breaking of day. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint through wrestling with him. And at the break of day the man left Jacob there, and he blessed him and went away. And Jacob passed the brook at the break of day, and he halted upon his thigh. And the sun rose upon him when he had passed the brook, and he came upon the place of his cattle and children, and they went on till midday. And while they were going, the present was passing on before them. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was at a distance, coming along with him many men, about 400. And Jacob was greatly afraid of his brother. And Jacob hastened and divided his children unto his women and his handmaids, and his daughter Dinah he put in a chest. Remember that chest? Everybody in his family got this thing about hiding people in chests. Remember? Abraham hid Sarah in the chest for fear that Abimelech would see her. Actually, I think it was first Pharaoh hid her in the chest, and they was like, look, you need to pay a portion of all that you got and give it to the king, to Pharaoh. And they came upon the chest and said, well, what's in this chest? He said, don't worry about what's in the chest, bro. He said, what's in the chest? Because we need a portion of that too. He said, listen, I give you a portion of what's in the chest. Just don't open it. But anyway, they opened the chest anyway and found this beautiful woman in there, his wife. And also Isaac, first right off jump, he hid Rebecca in the chest. And now here go Jacob hiding his daughter Dinah in the chest. I'm like, what kind of chest is this? Do they have these on Amazon? Maybe we need to get one of these chests. Okay, let me quit playing, y'all. Okay. And the sun rose up upon him when he had passed the brook, and he came upon the place of his cattle and children, and they went on till midday. And while they were going, the present was passing on before them. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was at a distance, coming along with many men, about 400. And Jacob was greatly afraid of his brother. And Jacob hastened and divided up his children unto his women and his handmaids, and his daughter Dinah he put in a chest, and delivered her into the hands of his servants. And he passed before his children and women to meet his brother, and he bowed down to the ground. Yea, he bowed down 7 times until he approached his brother. And Yahuwah caused Jacob to find favor and grace in the sight of Esau and his men, for Yahuwah had heard the prayer of Jacob. And the fear of Jacob and his terror fell upon his brother Esau, for Esau was greatly afraid of Jacob, for what the angels of Yahuwah had done to Esau. And Esau's anger against Jacob was turned into kindness. And when Esau saw Jacob running toward him, he also ran toward him, and he embraced him, and he fell upon his neck, and they kissed and they wept. And Yahuwah put fear and kindness toward Jacob in the hearts of the men that came with Esau, and they also kissed Jacob and embraced him. And also Eliphaz the son of Esau with his 4 brothers, sons of Esau, wept with Jacob, and they kissed him and embraced him, for the fear of Jacob had fallen upon them all. That says a whole lot, y'all. And Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women with their offspring, and the children of Jacob walking behind Jacob, and bowing along the road to Esau. And Esau said unto Jacob, Who are these with you, my brother? Are they your children or your servants? And Jacob answered Esau and said, They are my children, which Yahuwah has graciously given to your servant. And while Jacob was speaking to Esau and his men, behold, Esau beheld the whole camp, and he said unto Jacob, Whence did you get the whole camp that I met yesternight? And Jacob said, To find favor in the sight of my Lord. It is that which Yahuwah graciously gave to your servant. And the present came before Esau, and Jacob pressed Esau, saying, Take, I pray you, the present that I have brought to my Lord. And Esau said, Wherefore is this my purpose? To keep that which you have unto your... Wherefore is this my purpose? Keep that which you have unto yourself. And Jacob said, It is incumbent upon me to give you all of this, since I have seen your face, that you still live in peace. And Esau refused to take the present. And Jacob said unto him, I beseech you, my Lord, if I have now found favor in your sight, then receive my present at my hand. For I have therefore seen your face, and as though I had seen the face of an angel, because you were pleased with me. And Esau took the present, and Jacob also gave unto Esau silver and gold and bdellium, for he pressed him so much that he took them. And Esau divided the cattle that were in the camp, and he gave the half to men who had come with him, for they had come on hire. And the other half he delivered into the hands of his children. And the silver and gold and bdellium he gave into the hands of Eliphaz, his eldest son. And Esau said unto Jacob, Let us remain with you, and we will go slowly along with you until you come to my place with me, that we may dwell there together. And Jacob answered his brother and said, I would do as my Lord speaks unto me, but my Lord knows that the children are tender, and the flocks and the herds with their young who are with me, as also the herds with their young who are with me. But go but slowly, for if they went swiftly, they will all die. For you know that their burdens, for you know their burdens and their fatigue. Therefore, let my Lord pass on before his servant, and I will go on slowly for the sake of the children and the flock, until I come to my Lord's place to Seir. And Seir said unto Jacob, I will place with you some of the people that are with me, to take care of you on the road, and to bear your fatigue and burden. And he said, What needs it, my Lord, if I find grace in your sight? Behold, I will come unto you to Seir, to dwell there, as you have spoken. Go you then with your people, for I will follow you. And Jacob said this to Esau, in order to remove Esau and his men from him, so that Jacob might afterward go to his father's house in the land of Canaan. Send Elijah that code, please. Okay. Then, and Esau hearkened to the voice of Jacob, and Esau returned with the 400 men that were with him on the road to Seir. And Jacob and all belonging to him went that day as far as the extremity of the land of Canaan in its borders, and he remained there some time. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was Genesis 31, 32, and 33, and we just filled in those missing pieces and showed us why Esau's anger turned from the anger where he was going to kill his brother into the kindness that it was when they came face to face, because Yahuwah came down and like my grandma used to say, pulled rank on them. So I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. It is Monday, the last day of November the 30th, 2020, day 11 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 681. All right, y'all, we're going to do the blessing real quick, and we are going to go ahead and get about our day. And we find our blessing in Numbers chapter 6. All right, y'all. Remember, the Nazarite vow is the first 21 verses of Numbers chapter 6. And the blessing begins at verse 22, all the way to the end of the chapter, to verse 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all, and I will see y'all bright and early on tomorrow, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bruce.